My stalker broke into my house and stole a pic of me.
So let's get some things cleared up before I start. I live in the US, specifically in the Deep South. Lots of rednecks, trailers, and Trump supporters. I live in a lower middle class but safe neighborhood. My house, or street, has a hill with woods at the top, literally right behind my house/street. So let's begin. It all started May of last year. I walked into my house after school, my parents gone and my brother coming in about 25 minutes. So I put on sweatpants, pulled my hair up, the usual. In the South, it's really hot in May, so I go to open the windows. I get to one window towards the back of my house and see that the screen is tore, enough for a human to fit in. I just assumed my cats or my dog had broken it, as they are in and out throughout the day, with my grandmother watching over the house from about 8:30 a.m. to noon. So I walk through the living room. I notice something off about the mantle. I figure out what it is. A picture frame is sitting there, empty. The picture that used to be there was, you guessed it, of me. Chills go up my spine. It's creepy, but nothing to get my panties in a wad about. I just assumed my grandmother took it so she could bring it back to her house. So logical. Fast forward to 2 nights later. Friday night, nothing unusual. Relaxing in my bed, watching Shane Dawson, munching on pretzels. I'm alone upstairs, as my parents and brother are downstairs. I hear banging coming from my bathroom window. I just thought it was my cat. From the darkness of my hallway, I can just about make out a figure of a tall person standing and facing me. My blood runs cold. I scream for my dad. The figure moves away, back into the bathroom, and I hear the window shut. My dad gets upstairs and I tell him what happened. He grabs a bat from the garage and tells my mom and brother to go into my parents' room with me. My dad finds nothing. That night, I think back to the picture thing. I call my grandma and she says she never touched the picture. Creepy. Anyways, that's my story. No new encounters since May. Maybe the fact of my dad yielding a baseball bat and yelling, "Come back here, pedo," into the darkness scared him away. By the way, I've had many experiences like this, from being followed by strangers to having creepy middle-of-the-night encounters.
Crackheads meowing in the park on Thanksgiving.
Yesterday on Thanksgiving, I woke up from having slept late and wanted to go for a walk in the park before the sun went down. As I pulled into the parking lot, I noticed a van next to me. There was a woman outside the passenger door of the van. She whirled around and stared at me for about 6 seconds. Her face was completely cracked out. It had that sunken reptile look. Her eyes were absolutely dead. I could tell she was completely out of it. In the driver's seat was a greasy-looking man. He was just staring at me. I got out of the car and wasn't too worried yet because this park is kind of on a busy street. I began walking towards the path that would lead me into the park while constantly looking behind me. The crackheads were now in their van, rooting around for something. As I made my way further into the park, the sun began fading fast. I was also upset because I really look forward to walking in the park for stress relief. But the darker it got, I kept worrying that the couple were following me or waiting around the next bend for me. Finally, I gave up any chance of enjoying this stroll and decided to return to my car. And this is where it gets doubly odd. As I exited the trees and made my way back to my car, I saw the van. At this point, I was about 2 minutes from my car. The woman was outside the passenger door again, only this time the man was standing next to her. She began making sharp, high-pitched meowing noises and then moaning. Then a blue light appeared before my feet and kind of danced back and forth in front of my feet. The guy was holding a flashlight and shining it through the van windows directly in front of me. Every internal alarm I had was going off. Both the man and the woman were watching me with dead eyes, the woman still meowing. I was too afraid to run back into the trees and risk an incident where no one would be around to help me. I decided to just risk the chance that I might be faster than them, that I could get in my car quicker than they could do whatever it was that they were going to do to me. I began walking at a very fast clip towards my car while keeping an eye on them. As I got 5 feet from my driver's door, the man made a beeline for me, his blue light hitting me in the eyes. He was right at my trunk heading for my driver's door when I shut it and locked the doors immediately. The woman walked to my passenger door and just stared at me. The guy did the same at my driver door. I flicked the man off and very obviously mouthed the words, "Fuck you," in slow motion. I started my car and sped off away from the park and returned home. Then I called my family, who are all in different states than me, and told them I loved them and missed them.
The night I was almost kidnapped.
This happened 7, maybe 8 years ago, back when I was 22. I was working the third shift at a hotel as the night manager, and had been for a few years by then. I'd gotten used to the creepers and drunks, and the eerie feeling of being the only employee on staff had all but vanished. It was just a job, and I loved it. I could play video games on my laptop behind the desk all night, and was rarely bothered other than an occasional rowdy drunk group or those late-night gross calls. The front of my hotel had 2 outside glass doors, an entryway, just newspaper machines, and another set of glass doors to enter the hotel. My desk was about 10 steps forward and 10 steps to the left once inside. So around 2 a.m. one night, I remember because it was after my audit, this guy came in, under 6 foot, skinny, white, scruffy, wearing a baseball cap, jeans, and a tan jacket. He didn't come all the way in though. He was in the entryway, opened one door about halfway, looked at me, up at the cameras, and backed his head out a little bit, but didn't shut the door. Immediate red flags. I asked if I could help him, and he told me that there was a broken sprinkler on our property that was flooding the street. I informed him that we didn't use in-ground sprinklers. Ours were attached to the building and rained down. We didn't have large plots of grass or flowers since we were surrounded by other businesses. He insisted it was ours, and it was flooding the street. I again informed him that we don't use in-ground sprinklers, and that it most likely belonged to one of the surrounding businesses, and that I would call around in the morning when they are all opened and let him know. He was really anxious. I wasn't sure if it was because he wanted to rob me or if it was because he was weirdly concerned about a broken sprinkler. Now he wanted me to come outside with him to see. I told him I wasn't allowed to leave the desk, but really I just didn't want to be outside where there are no cameras. He lingered, thinking, then just said, "What about the sprinkler then? It's wasting water." I told him there was nothing I could do right now. I offered to call non-emergency and have a police officer come by if that would ease him. He said no, they can't do anything about it, and left after silently lingering again. After he left, my adrenaline kicked in. I hadn't realized how scared I was until he was gone. I was shaking. I decided to call my boyfriend and thought about calling the owner at home, but didn't feel it was necessary to wake him up. I did, however, call around to the other hotels nearby and told them what had happened. Us night shifts were pretty close, and anytime something weird happened, we'd do call-arounds to warn the others. Fast forward about 10 minutes. I'm talking to my boyfriend and repeating the events, and my curiosity really piqued. I had to know if there was in fact a broken sprinkler. Maybe I was blowing this out of proportion. I needed a smoke bad too, so I kept my boyfriend on the phone and went outside. No broken sprinkler in sight. I was through the parking lot towards a restaurant about 300 or 400 feet away, and I see the broken sprinkler. It would be obvious to anyone that this sprinkler belonged to the restaurant. It was gushing water, bent sideways, like it had been run over or kicked. Then I noticed the pickup truck on the other side and the restaurant's parking lot. This area had one street light, wasn't very lit. It was parked sideways, passenger door facing me, and it was open. I started hustling it back to the hotel when I heard the truck start up. I looked behind me and saw the same man looking at me through the open passenger door. I couldn't see his face, but I saw that baseball cap and the tan jacket. He drove off very quickly, not even shutting the passenger door. I called the cops immediately and filed a report. The police made our hotel part of their nightly patrol for a few days after that, but I never saw him again.